I'm the owner of Lauren Taylor Creates and LT Creative Tours. I'm originally from California, but I've been living in Northern Ireland the last 3 years. I've always done art from when I was a small child. It's always been something that I've been really passionate about, but I never went to art school. I instead opted to do something a little bit more practical and studied international business in college in Hawaii. But art was always something that I did on the side for fun, and I would keep coming back to. So in 2011, after I graduated, I was working full-time as a news producer for local morning TV news. And I decided to open up an Etsy account with some of my artwork, again, just kind of for fun. And thus Lauren Taylor Creates was born. So I sold a few pieces, and then I sold a few more. And then I started getting asked about commissions and started selling prints of my artwork. And in 2013, I was really unhappy at my job in the news, and I decided I really wanted to travel and go to South America. So I left my job at the news station and moved back to California, where I'm from. I worked retail and saved to travel, all while working on Lauren Taylor Creates, still on the side. But in 2014, I made the decision to pursue being an artist full-time. It was a job that I figured I could take on the road with me. And I ended up backpacking in South America for 7 months. And that's where I met my husband, who's from here. So that's kind of how I ended up here as well. So I jumped in with 2 feet, and I haven't really looked back since. I've been working as an artist full-time for the last 7 years, mostly doing commissions up until last year when I was able to give up doing commissions completely. And now I focus on selling original artwork, prints, commercial projects. I just launched a online beginner watercolor lessons called Just Paint, and they're quite successful, which has been amazing. And last year I launched a tour company called LT Creative Tours with my husband, James, offering untaught tours and retreats for artists and creatives around Ireland. But unfortunately, launching a tour company in January 2020 wasn't the best timing. So we haven't gotten to run a tour yet, but we're hopeful that this year we'll be able to later this summer. So we've spent the last 2 years basically perfecting our route and creating brand awareness through Instagram and our website. So I got on Instagram in 2012. And because I was already on Etsy, I began posting my paintings and artwork. So Instagram's basically been a part of my career as an artist the whole time. So I pulled up here some of my early posts. The one on the left is my second ever Instagram post. You can see like the crazy filter on it. If anyone remembers, those used to be like really popular, which is just kind of fun. So Instagram's been such an amazing and important platform for artists to connect directly with clients, customers, and to make connections. Without it, we'd rely on galleries, agents, other things like that to market our work. But Instagram's given the power, to anyone who wants to make and share anything, which is so amazing. So most of my customers and clients do find me through Instagram, and I don't think I'd be where I'm at now or possibly even be an artist without it. It's obviously not always great, which I'll talk a bit about in a little bit, the ways I kind of use it to work for me and the ways I deal with some of the struggles. But overall, it's been a really important part of my business. So like I said, a large number of people find me because of Instagram. So last year, 35% of the traffic to my website actually came directly through Instagram. And I also want to point out that that means that a large number of people are finding me and coming to my website on their phones. So I actually looked it up, and last year, 78% of my website traffic was on a mobile device. I think that's just massive, right? So it's so important to look at your website from your phone and to experience it like a customer would. because I guarantee like at some point someone's going to be looking at your site or information from their phone. And I'm actually in the process of a complete rebrand and website redesign. These are some of my new brand colors, which I'm really excited to share. I got a little sneak peek of my new logo on the front page. So this is all just something that's kind of in my mind as I go through that process. So like I said, Instagram's obviously been hugely influential in my business, drives a lot of traffic to my site. But what do I actually post? Over the years, my voice and posting styles changed. And I feel where I'm at now with posting on my Instagram, I'm a lot more focused on creating connections with people. Art's an emotional purchase. It's something someone's going to choose to hang in their home, hopefully for a long time. So you have to kind of build and nurture these relationships for people to have connections to my artwork. And in addition to posting and sharing like finished artwork, I post a lot of like thoughts and questions. And this has helped kind of create engagement and a deeper connection for my followers into my thought process behind my work. And it also helps foster that emotional connection towards my artwork and my brand as well. So I kind of like to think of the different parts of Instagram, like posts, stories, reels, and IGTV as having different functions and different purposes. So posts are basically a curated portfolio of my artwork and my brand. They're visually beautiful. I'm always trying to think of ways that I can elevate them through better photography, appealing props, weaving a story, creating something just really visually appealing. I try to post just at least a few times a week. I use the Notes app on my phone throughout my day or throughout the day to like plan posts and to write captions. I've used apps like Planoly in the past to plan out like the grid aesthetically. I don't use it all the time. A lot of times I'll just kind of look at the grid and eyeball it. But if you can plan out posts ahead of time, it's better so you're not always just thinking on the fly. But I definitely go through waves of planning and not planning. But I do find the most helpful thing for me when working on posts is the Notes app. And just, if you're going to bed and you randomly think of something, just jotting it down, out for a walk, jot it down. And I have like a whole bank of captions and kind of thoughts ready to go. So I use stories a lot and in kind of a lot of different ways. So I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about stories because I think that they're really, really valuable for connecting and building that relationship and that trust with your followers. And often we're so focused on growing our following, we forget to nurture the followers that we already have. So whether you have 100 people or 1 million people, if you want those people to care about your brand and buy what you're creating, you have to nurture and cater to those people who are following you. So my stories, I love to use them as kind of a peek into my daily life by sharing my morning walks each day. So for years, I didn't really put my face on my Instagram. It was really art focused only. But this year, I kind of unintentionally started sharing my morning walks during the start of the pandemic, on my stories, and people really loved it. My following's mostly American, and Americans love Ireland, so it's kind of like a glimpse into another life for them, which is appealing. And my walks are usually peaceful and nature inspired, and so it just kind of helps create these connections with followers that I never really experienced before. So like these posts are from a woodland near our house. The middle one, if you can see the toy tiger in the fallen branch, someone propped up this toy tiger in the woods around the time Tiger King came out. And it's literally like a life-size toy tiger. And he would move around different, like you'd find him in different parts of the woods, and it was hilarious. And so I just started posting him to my stories. If you look at my highlights, I have one called Morning Walks, and you can see him. But people just thought it was so funny. It was just like a fun way to, I guess, lift people's spirits kind of during things that, were kind of heavy at the time. Well, still, but so I think it's just kind of a fun way to be able to share a little bit more about yourself and your personal life. Like, share something. You don't have to share everything about your personal life, but I think if you can share something, you can make people feel more connected to you and like there's a real person behind the account. I also use stories for market research. So when I had the idea for LT Creative Tours, our tour company, launching a tour company seemed a little overwhelming, and I didn't know if people would be even into the concept. So I put together a questionnaire and posted it to my Insta stories. I did the same for my watercolor classes. I wanted to see, like, do people even want that? Do they want to learn from me? So you can see here, like the picture on the left, I asked, like, would you be interested in taking a painting class from me? If so, how long would you want it to be? Have you taken a painting class before online? What did you like? What didn't you like? You can ask these types of questions from your followers, and it can give you some kind of a baseline, to go off of, instead of spending all this time creating and putting something together that you don't even know if there's interest for. So I don't do it for everything. Like, I wouldn't do it for a collection of artwork, but for something that I'm unsure about, it's a great resource to have. And stories are also great for promotion, launches, creating a bit of buzz. I have heard that you have to post something at least 6 times for people to see it. So with all the noise, algorithm, etc., you just have to assume people aren't seeing what you're putting out. So using stories is a great way to post consistently and constantly without bogging down your feed with the same thing over and over. You can kind of get away with that on stories since they disappear. So I've been using stories also to boost kind of overall engagement, playing around with like quizzes and games. We created I joined Just Paint story that I encouraged people to screenshot and share if they joined my watercolor class. So you can see on the left there, it's a screenshot of someone who shared my post. And so it was a great way to kind of create that engagement with people who were joining my class. And it was also a way that I got them to share with their following and get them and their following excited about it as well, and maybe reach more people. So, like doing Q&As, ask me anything posts, ask them a question. You'll just get to know your followers and in turn your customers a bit better. And using like quizzes, questions, polls, they're all just great kind of for engagement. Even I try to post to stories kind of a lot throughout the week. Sundays tend to be really good for engagement for me. So having like games like, the pink purple here, where you just things that are easy for people to click and select things that they like. You can kind of start to understand what people like and what they don't like, or also just kind of make it for fun as well. It doesn't always have to be trying to like learn more about people. It could just be kind of lighthearted and silly. And the nice thing as well is that when you ask questions on stories, no one else sees it, right? So if it's a total flop, if you don't get a lot of responses, which still happens to me sometimes, it's not public. So no harm done. You asked a question, it didn't work out. That's okay. You just move on. So IGTV, for me, I've been using it quite a bit over the last year. I use it for kind of longer or full length painting or painting videos and tutorials and stuff as well. I think at the time, without really knowing it, it kind of set me up for launching my online watercolor classes because people were already used to seeing me paint and share my process. And I was already used to kind of recording and making these types of videos. So I think subconsciously one kind of led to the other. But these have been great for me for engagement. I get a lot of people asking about my supplies as well. So I made an IGTV where I go through all the supplies that I use. So it's really great that I don't have to like have this full long response to people all the time. I could just say, oh, go check out my video that I've already made. And so reels are obviously the big thing right now. I've focused more on reels, especially over the summer with LT Creative Tours. We used it to create buzz and highlight some of the places that we visit. And we've had a lot of fun making them. Discover and I have shared a couple. The one on the left there is a really silly video of sheep in Donegal. It was really random. And it like exploded. It got like 70,000 views or something. So just they're kind of lighthearted and fun. I haven't done as many reels for Lauren Taylor Creates. I've done a couple like around Ireland and things I love, but I'm definitely going to be shifting and kind of focusing more on painting and process and behind the scene reels. Because Instagram's just kind of pushing the algorithm that way. If you want to grow and get noticed by new people, you kind of have to be posting reels. So I find that stories for me are really wonderful for creating the connections with people who already follow you. But reels are great for like getting new people and getting noticed by people who don't follow you. But just make sure if you are going to hop on the reel wheel, you're making stuff that's actually engaging, because there's obviously so many out there. I personally find like most of them just kind of dumb. but I can see it, like if you make them fun and you put a bit of effort into them, they can be quite like nice as well. So it's kind of the way Instagram's going, like I said. So sometimes you have to play the game a little bit. Like I recently read a New York Times article that Instagram recommends that people make 6 reels a week, 3 posts a week, 2 posts a day, and a few IGTVs a week as well. And it's not a realistic amount of stuff to be doing unless you're a full-time content creator, which I'm not, and I'm sure a lot of you aren't either. So I think at the end of the day, we just need to focus on what aspects of Instagram, are important to you, and what are you trying to say, and which platforms are you going to use to reach people and to say that. So just use it in kind of an intentional way. So I know I know the focus obviously on Instagram. Like a lot of times when we talk about Instagram, it's all about growth and more followers. But a large following does not always equal more sales. And I think instead of trying to always grow our following, it's better to nurture the audience that we already have. So how can you turn those 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people into being passionate about your brand, your product, and you? When you think of that many people in a room, like when you think of 100 people in a room right now, that kind of feels claustrophobic, but like in any time, 100 people in a room is a lot of people, right? So you have to remember, like, I think a lot of times when we hear the word follower, it just seems abstract, but followers are people. So think about like what you like to see, what you're attracted to, and focus on making those connections with real people. Because with that, when we're focused on the connection part, they'll care more about your brand, they'll be your biggest cheerleader, and they'll shop as well. So I've told you a bit about how I use Instagram for my business, but at the end of the day, it is an app that you can't really control. We don't really get to control the algorithm, don't get to control what shows up on our followers' feeds. Sometimes someone might follow you and literally never see what you post, and that's not your fault, that's not their fault. It's just kind of out of your control. So it can be quite frustrating. Like I know it can be really heartbreaking when you share a collection that you're so happy about and you're so proud of, and the response is just crickets. Or when you have like 1 million people ask you to make prints of a painting, and then you do, and you offer prints, and like 1 person buys it. So I know it can be really, really frustrating with Instagram sometimes, especially right now. Like I know a lot of people are talking about their numbers being really up and down. Things seem to be really hit or miss. So I just want to really emphasize, don't put too much energy or focus on the number of likes or comments or even followers. Like that stuff's going to fluctuate. I would really recommend like pushing people to your mailing list. If you don't have one, you can start one like with MailChimp for free. You know, when they're on your mailing list, you completely get to control what they see and what you say, the messaging, the imagery. And it's a bit more personal, isn't it? Like when you receive something in your inbox. So I would recommend definitely focusing on pushing people to that. And also, like when you are posting, just be clear about what you want people to do. It might seem obvious to you if you post a painting, that means it's available, but it's not necessarily obvious to everyone else. So just be clear, like this painting is available to purchase on my website, or go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter. You know, just be crystal clear about what you want people to do. So I think it's kind of clear, like a lot of us have a kind of love-hate relationship with Instagram, right? And if you used it for your business or use it for your business, it can feel like the best and the worst place, all kind of at the same time. Sometimes you want to break up with it. Sometimes you can find yourself scrolling for hours and feeling kind of lousy about yourself because seeing someone else succeed at something that you're struggling to do can be really frustrating. And then maybe you feel frustrated with yourself for feeling that way because someone else's success does not mean your failure. But I think it's just human of us to feel that way. So one thing I implemented a few years ago that helped me a lot with those kinds of feelings was to unfollow anyone who makes you feel less than or bad about yourself. So there's loads of artists that I really admire. I love their work. But that I've unfollowed actually, because every time their post would come up, I would just kind of feel bad about myself. You know, I'd feel like I wasn't working hard enough or doing enough. I was disappointed that I wasn't getting the type of projects that they were posting about, or, you know, maybe I had created something similar to them, but my post wasn't receiving the same type of praise that theirs was, you know, just kind of that comparison game. And I really, really wholeheartedly believe that there's enough room for everyone to succeed and for everyone to be there and to be artists. But like I said, we're human, and, you know, it's very easy in these little boxes to play that comparison game. So I think it's completely okay to unfollow people that you like, that you admire, but just, you know, if you find that it kind of takes you to a negative space, to do that. And like I said before, I don't use likes and comments as an indicator of your value or your work's value. Like just because a post or painting or whatever doesn't get a lot of a response, that does not mean it's not good. And that does not mean that it doesn't deserve to exist or be there. You know, maybe just the algorithm didn't work out, you know, maybe it just got lost in the feed. Like there's so many things out of our control. And even if it was seen like by thousands of people, it just shouldn't always put the value of what we're creating to other people. Like if it makes you happy to do it and to the process of it, like don't let Instagram take away that joy. And I will also say that while everyone's always pushing consistency and says consistency will help you grow, which it does, I feel it's also important to point out that it's okay to take a break if you need to. I took a 3-month break from Instagram, like completely deleted the app off my phone, like 2 years ago, because my depression had just gotten so bad that every time I got on Instagram, I just felt completely worthless. And I think it's important to know that like Instagram will be there when you get back. Like it'll be fine. Your business will be there. It'll be fine. But you need that time for yourself and to get better and to kind of work on yourself. And so it's okay to hit pause and to take a bit of rest time. And so the last thing I'll say is I think it's so important, like I've said kind of throughout, to think of the connections first. You know, we're all just people trying to connect. And so I think if you look at your marketing efforts that way, and if you look at your Instagram efforts in that way, people will really resonate with that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. That's kind of me. I'm going to pass things over to Danni. Stop sharing here.
I'm an Australian artist. I'm currently living in Northern Ireland, and I'll get to that story soon. But what I specialize in is murals and illustrations. So as you can see from here, they're anything from really large scale murals right down to illustrations that can be used for any type of branding. I'll just flip to the next one. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. So I actually started off working when I was about 11, very, very young. But I was working and eventually moved into a makeup artist factory where I was making all different types of cosmetics, but I was applying it to people. I was doing their sales and marketing. And that sort of kicked off when I was in my early 20s, that I started doing the sales and marketing for it. But at that time, it was kind of like social media was just kicking off. It was a real transition between traditional marketing to what I would say like your digital marketing that we have now. So my role as the youngest person there really took on all of that social media marketing, as which would be your Facebook, your Instagram, which were the two main things. And this was back when having 10,000 people on Instagram was like a major celebrity moment for anyone. So it was really building that and learning how to make that transition over from traditional marketing. Sorry, my button's not working. So when I was 26, I had quite a traumatic time, and I was having a real shift and change in a lot of things that were happening in my life. And I actually started drawing up at Burley Hill in Australia as a way to deal with anxiety. I painted my first mural in 2017 at the Wilderness Bar in Palm Beach. And this was a really big thing for me. I'd never actually painted a mural. I didn't call myself an artist. I was still working full time in my job. And this was just really like a side hobby for me. And I guess that's where it all sort of kicked off. Once I started doing that first mural, it was a way of me being able to post this on social media and share that, like, this is something that I can do. It was a visual thing that people could see that I've actually completed it as well. So come early 2018, I started working on a few different commissions for the 2018 Commonwealth Games, which was in Australia. So I was doing electrical boxes. I was doing that big building that you can see, which has got the green and the red. It was a mammoth task for me, but it was a big step in the direction of becoming a full-time artist. So come mid-2018, I actually quit my job. I sold all my belongings and I purchased a one-way ticket to Europe. And it was sort of in the hopes that I could pursue my goal in becoming a full-time artist, but also be able to do my travels that I've always wanted to do. So within that year, I actually landed in Belfast, which is where my granny is from. And I picked up a mural straight away in the one of the pubs in the Cathedral Quarter, and just kept coming back and forth from Holland, which was actually where I had a house, and I was back and forth in Belfast doing all different types of murals. I'd gone to Spain, England, lots of different places, but I ended up finding my home here in Northern Ireland. So in 2019, I launched my business here and started focusing on commercial murals and illustrations. So using my social media accounts, mainly Instagram, as a way to be able to connect with people here and get my name out there for people to see the type of work that I'm doing. And it was a real moment in 2019 where I was able to find my way. It was quite a tough thing being someone from another country and having to network with people that I had no idea who was who, and it was very, very foreign. But come 2020, as we know, the pandemic hit and all of my murals were cancelled. So I mainly work a lot in hospitality, and it was quite a daunting thing of what type of work am I going to do. So I had to really shift my focus. And with that focus, I moved to a passive income, which is my art sales, which are these little maps that you can see. And having a social media following really helped with that transition, because I already had an audience that was sitting there that enjoyed my murals, that could then have that little piece of artwork in their own home. And then come this year, I'm now focusing on trying to find a balance between murals, commercial commissions, and my art prints. And I think also just trying to find a way of doing more art that I enjoy now that I've been able to sort of cut through the first couple of years where you're kind of just taking on whatever comes your way just to be able to get the work flowing. It's quite a difficult thing. So I guess it comes down to Instagram. So Instagram for me was something that I had from a really, really, my Instagram account, if you have a look at it, it was all makeup artistry at the start. I always find it quite funny when you see the notification of people liking posts from those early years and it's me doing makeup. But for me, it was trying to build that into an art and having a brand that people would recognize. So I think it's important, if you're building a brand on Instagram, to be able to have your identity. So what makes you different? What is it that people will want to come onto your page, and what do they get out of that page that you have? So it needs to have a little bit of personality. So people need to see either your personality or your brand personality coming through. It's all about, I'll run into these a little bit more detail, but it's about people being able to see at a first glance that this is your brand. So whether it's your font, your colors, your style, it's keeping it really consistent. Then it's, what do you do? So what is your unique target market? What are your skills? What do you enjoy doing? And how can you make an income while you're making an impact, which I think is a massive thing when you are a creative or a small business, is what is it that people are getting the value out of it from you? And then where are you? So how can people find you? Your website is your virtual shop. So I think the biggest thing with Instagram that I would say is that Instagram is not your website. It is not your website at all. It is a tool to get people to your website or to get people to your shop. So how can you use that and get that call to action through? And then community. So I think with Instagram, and I've noticed in the last couple of years, it's really finding a community for people wanting to be involved in something. So whether or not you are doing art lessons or you are doing more of like a travel blog type of things, they want to feel like they are involved in that process. So growing a following. So I started my Instagram as a makeup account back when I started art. I grew this trialing so many different tactics. Trust me, there were so many different things in the early days. Like for a like, follow for a follow, hashtags, all of those crazy things that we're trying to do to grow the following number, not realizing that it's not actually about the number that you have at the top of the page. It's about the engagement that you have from the followers that are already there. So I trialed all these different things, and let me just tell you one thing: do not purchase any followers. That is not the way to be able to get engagement. The algorithm also strongly doesn't work for this type of thing. So there's a couple of different things that I would say key points, and I'll run to these, which is stay on brand, be human, make it visual, encourage engagement, time it right, CTAs, and analyze your metrics. So for me, staying on brand, so you want to represent your brand, not just yourself. So I guess this is blurred slightly when you are a business that's based on your skill, talent, or influence. So like myself, my business is my business name. So I obviously have to show a little bit of my personality through. But depending on what you're doing, you want to make sure that everything that you're posting on social media is keeping it professional, but still has that tiny little element of personality to it. And then also, whatever you're creating, you want it to make sure that the content is relating to your target audience. So you're not posting little memes of things. That you want people to be able to know that when they're going on your page, this is what they're going to be getting. So for me, if you can see on my Instagram, I always stick to a general palette of colors when creating artwork and sharing it on social media. I avoid overlapping photos with text. So you can try apps like Photoshop, Procreate, or Canva if you're ever needing to have a little bit of text on your photos. But I always keep it to a minimal. It's more of a portfolio, I see Instagram as. And then with images, you want to use high quality photos. So I actually filter a lot of my photos to keep the photos consistently looking nice when you see it in the grid. So I actually don't know how to pronounce this. I think it's Visco for all my photos, so that they're edited in the same way. And it's a really cool tool to have because you can save your presets. And then that way, every time you're posting, it's just looking like a really nice, consistent flow. And then layout. So you want to think of each post as a small section of your portfolio. So how does your photos all look when it comes together? So for this one, again, I don't know how to pronounce this one. I think it's Unknown to plan my posts. And this is where you're able to go in and put all of your different posts onto an app, and you can move them all around, and you can be able to visually see how those posts look when you do it. And then you also know ahead of what you're actually going to be able to post. Next one is be human. So you want to show people behind your brand. No one likes big corporations. So show the people who are behind the camera and give your audience someone to relate to. I know it's very, very daunting, especially on stories, to come on and have your face and be talking about who you are and what you're doing. I always feel very, very strange when I'm doing it, but it does actually make a huge impact. People have been able to feel like you're actually speaking to them, you're sharing your story, and you're sharing your process. So this would be on Instagram stories. So this allows your followers to see behind the scenes for 24 hours. As you can see my little face here where I'm talking about who knows what I'm speaking about. The other thing you can do is go live. So I jump on the Instagram live feature, and you can get chatting to your audience. So whether or not that's art lessons, it could be an interview where you're speaking with someone like an industry professional. But it's a really good way for people to be able to feel like they're in a real and live conversation. They can jump in with questions. Obviously, like when you're at the start, and I still get it as well, sometimes you go live and you don't have that many people pop up, but you need to realize that that's actually saved. And for example, I did an art lesson, and I think there was about 60 people who were on that art lesson. And I thought, oh, that doesn't seem like that many people in the grand scheme of how many followers I had. But I had to think of it as if that was a room full of people. 60 people in a room doing your art lesson is a lot of people. And then when that actually got saved as a permanent post, there was 1,500 people who ended up watching that, because it's then saved on Instagram permanently for people to be able to continue seeing. The next one would be IGTV. It makes going live a little bit easier. So if you want to pre-record something, whether or not it's a tutorial, it could be you actually creating something, it could be an interview, a Zoom chat, anything that you want to have pre-recorded, and it allows you to share longer videos with people as opposed to the 1-minute caption that's normally on Instagram. So a few different ideas would be behind the scenes, an interview, a day of a life. People love that type of thing. They love being able to feel like they're in your shoes and doing what you're doing. Tutorials and guides. The next one is make it visual. So what type of content are you producing? I always like to try to avoid too much self-promotion. So I stick to the rule of 80% content and 20% promo. So as you can see, as I'm posting things, I'll share work that I'm doing and content and creating and tips, but then 20% of that, which might be, I've just released a new map. Here is how you get it on my website. So pre-plan your content. make sure you know what you're going to post in advance. And I know that is so easy to say, and I'm very guilty of it sometimes, where I have a busy week and I get to the end of the week and I think I haven't posted anything on Instagram, and that is totally okay. But for the weeks that you are able to plan, I think it's really important to be able to sit down and think in advance what you're actually going to post. I recommend choosing a day in the week and planning out your post. So for me, it would be a Sunday. I would sit down and think, what type of content do I want to give to people this week? What national days are coming up? Do I have a product launch that I need to relate to during the week? So perhaps I'm launching a map on the Thursday, so building up content prior to that would be perfect. Sit down and write your hashtags and your captions, because it certainly makes it so much easier. Because if you're posting at 6 o'clock at night and you've had a big day, it's very, very hard sometimes to sit there and actually think about what your caption is going to be. The next one is like a bit of a content guide, and I'm sorry, this is a lot of wording on here, but this is a really great way of being able to have something like I find on a Sunday, I'm trying to think, oh, what do I want to post? And just being able to have like these different ideas that you can bounce off. So whether or not that's like a milestone, you've hit 1,000 followers, it's been a year since you've launched, just something that you are proud of that your audience can relate to. Things that inspire you. So books, people, film, art. Perhaps there is someone else who is in your industry who you are really inspired by and you want to share that with your followers. Interviews, so sort of touching on the same thing, where you may be speaking with someone who is an industry professional as well. Partnerships, and I've found lately partnerships have been a fantastic way, especially to collaborate with other local businesses and people who are in your industry. So this creates community, not competition. I think that's really, really important. And with this pandemic, I found that so many people are shopping locally at the moment. They're supporting small businesses. So to be able to partner with other people who are in the same sort of business mindset or industry as you, your audience will really, really appreciate that. Quotes. I personally don't do anything quoting, which is like a personal preference, but things that relate to your brand or audience, and always try and keep it positive. Infographics, so this is just a great way to educate your audience. Games, so let them name a new product, let them guess how many orders you posted. It's all about creating engagement. Quizzes, a great way to start a conversation with your audience. So if you say, for example, I do a lot of travel stuff, I would do things where I maybe am focusing on a new country and I just pop out a little quiz on your story, and it's a really cool way to be able to connect with your audience. How-to guides, this is really important, especially as like an artist. I find a lot of people who are in the same industry or people who are wanting to be able to do art from home are constantly asking, how do I draw a mandala? How do I do this? And this is a fantastic way of being able to put it on your story, especially as like say, on Instagram, especially as like an IGTV. Blog post, so this, you could do a little segment that relates to a blog post that's already on your website or your blog account. Polls, which would be on stories, which is a good way to get conversation started. National days, which I already spoke about, which is, say, for example, International Women's Day, that type of thing, of being able to get involved in the broader community. Giveaways, which really build hype. So I like to do a giveaway every now and then because people know that they can come on and they could potentially get a piece of artwork, but it also is about them tagging their friends or their loved ones, and it's broadening your audience as well. Reflections is a really nice way of being able to look back on how far you've come. I actually enjoy it personally when I do that type of thing, because sometimes you just need to have that moment to sit back and see all of the work that you've actually done and connect with your audience in that way. Behind the scenes lets people see what's happening behind the camera. Time lapses, which is really great for creatives like me, for people to see the whole process, which then works into work in progress, which is a really, really good way for people to see what's involved in the production or process of whatever you're creating. I actually find work in progress pictures have a higher engagement than a finished picture because people are seeing that process of that artwork being creative. So the next one is time it right. So it's all well and good to have all this content, but when are you actually going to post it? And I know when I first started, I was constantly Googling, when is the right time to post? When should I do this? So I would research when the best time is to post based on your audience, your location, and your industry. So using a scheduling tool is an option. You don't have to do this, but if you're feeling like you're really time poor, or perhaps the perfect time for you to post is when you may have something else on, I actually use a scheduling tool, which is called Later, and you can pre-arrange your content so you aren't just posting last minute for the sake of it. And you can make a goal, whether it's you're going to post once a week, once a day, but just make sure whatever it is, you stick to that so that you have that nice consistency. So when do I post? I post every I wrote that wrong. I post 3 to 4 times in a week. As my followers are mostly from Australia and the UK, I post around 7 p.m. at night, which is around 5 a.m. in Australia as they wake, just so that, because Instagram is one of those things that does time out, unfortunately, with your permanent posts. So being able to make sure that I can capture them at the right time is quite important. You can see on Instagram, you can go into your analytics and it will have when people are most active. So you can see on my one here on a Thursday, people are most active around 6 p.m. at night, which relates back to the time that I post. Call to action. So it's all well and good to have all of this content and people loving what you're doing, but you need to be able to have that nice bridge, let's say, into your actual shop. So kind of imagine Instagram as a walkway into your store. People are seeing all these beautiful signs and pictures and everything that you're doing, but you need to be able to give them the key to open the door to get into your shop. So what I like to do on the bottom of each post is be able to have a little bit of a call to action. So link is in bio, swipe up feature on your story so that people can actually go straight into it. But as you know, make sure that your website is mobile friendly, which is a big mistake that I made at the start of launching my website. It was not mobile friendly and my bounce rate on my website was massive. I actually now use Linktree, which is an additional app. I know I feel like I'm saying lots of all these apps that I use, but Linktree allows me to navigate my customers into the right areas. So whether or not they're wanting to go for the art lesson that I have, they're wanting to go to the shop, they want to view my portfolio, it's just a little tiny step in between the bio on my Instagram to my website that they can just navigate to the right page so that they're not getting lost on the website, especially on a phone. Analyze. Now, this is the boring part, but it's really, really essential to be able to have a look at your metrics and see how your analytics, how your Instagram is going. It's one of those things you can get quite lost in it. And I don't think it's important to be focusing so much on your followers, but more so your engagement that you have on your Instagram. So set realistic targets, record these once a week. So for me, I actually have just like an Excel or a numbers document. Then I just put in there followers and engagement and just keep an eye on making sure that it's constantly rising or staying somewhat the same and not dipping. The good thing about doing that is that if you do have a bit of a dip or you have like a really high influx of followers or engagement, you can actually have a look at your content and think, well, what did I post that caused that reaction? And if it's a positive one, you know what to post then. You know that that's something that people really enjoyed seeing. Or if it's something that perhaps it went the other way, you know, okay, well, perhaps that's something that I should have a look at not posting or refining better. You can see all of these analytics on your Instagram. There will be a tab that says Insights, and it's very, very easy. You can get apps that will go in more depth, but to be honest, I don't have the time to go that that detailed, but I do have a look every now and then, make sure that everything is heading in the right direction. And then website. So it's all well and good, as I said, to have all of this content, but it needs to relate back to something. For me, I like to build my email subscriber list, because that is something that you actually own. You do not own your Instagram. As much as you can put in so much work into it, it is just a tool to get to your website. So if you can put people through to your email subscriber list, it is a great way that you can, if you have a launch or whatnot, that you can send out an email and send them maybe a special little deal, and direct straight through to the website. So my website is my virtual shop, and since COVID-19, it has become such a valuable asset for my business. If I didn't have this, I would not have any income coming through. So I'm design savvy, but I have no idea how to do code. So I actually used Wix. Now, Wix was about when I first started creating the website, but I know there's so many different types of platforms that you can use, whether it's Squarespace, WordPress, Shopify. There's lots of different ones, but for me, I use Wix. It's very easy. You do not need to know its code. As I said, you can just pop your photos in, move things around. It's a little bit more user-friendly, let's say, but it also has lots of different apps that support my website. So whether or not I'm needing to change currency, anything to do with the commerce side of things, it works. It also has the capability of being able to put your Instagram feed onto the website as well, so people can see that branding follow right through. So there's a few main reasons why people would visit my website. One is to purchase art, the other is to view my portfolio, and the third is to contact me for commission. So I make sure that those things are right in the forefront of the website when people are heading onto it. But it all comes down to finding a balance. So it's all well and good to say all of these great things that you can do. And I think it's nice to be transparent that some weeks we just don't get all of that done. But especially as a small business owner, we have to wear so many different hats. There's only 24 hours in the day, and managing a business becomes more than a full-time job, unfortunately, at times. So whether or not you're trying to manage your accounting, your marketing, production, product creation, website developer, dispatcher, designer, admin, all these different things that we have to do, it becomes quite a lot. So make sure that you do see the value in using Instagram for marketing, but you also are kind to yourself because you only have a certain amount of time in the day. So for me, my biggest tips and takeaway from this would be to make a list of what you need to do, prioritize what is important to you and what elements of Instagram that you want to focus on. Plan your day and work smart, don't work hard. And that's me. I hope I was able to help you out there.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, like that was such a great presentation from both of you guys, and I'm sure so many people got so much from that. Just even in the chat box, we already have 28 messages, everyone just kind of feeding back. So I think now I will take it to the question time, and then I'll just ask between Lauren and Danny. So let me go back to the start. So the first person asks, what exactly are Reels?
I guess I'll answer that since I talked a little bit about it. But it's basically like a 15-second, I think they upped it to 30 seconds actually, basically short videos on Instagram that are kind of like TikTok videos. So, but that might not be helpful if you don't know what TikToks are. So basically they're short videos that are kind of quick and fun, usually 15 to 30 seconds long. And they allow you to add music directly in the app. So you have a wide range of like music and audio that you can choose from. You can also like do different transitions and add text over it, and all through the Instagram app. It's not always super user friendly. I think they're like a little bit tricky. I actually use an app called InShot to edit my videos. like outside of the app, I find it a lot easier. And they actually, it's a paid app, you have to pay for it, but I don't think it's very expensive if I remember. And it actually has copyright free music as well. So it's really good. I use it for like my longer videos as well. So I'll usually edit my videos there and then put it into Instagram.
Perfect. Next question is, how do you know when Instagram are going to change their algorithms? Can you tell from your engagement levels?
You don't really know. I feel like usually you start hearing chatter if you're like I'm in an artist group on Facebook, so people usually start talking there, like, has anyone seen any changes, you know, in engagement and things like that. If you are keeping track of your engagement, and you're maybe being consistent and posting similar things and you see a big dip, or you could just Google it, like, has Instagram changed their algorithm? And usually you'll see on like Twitter or online, people are talking about it. It's just something like completely out of your control. You don't know when or what way they're changing it. It seems right now they're just really trying to push like content creators, like people whose full-time job is creating for Instagram, which is hurtful to small businesses and people who use Instagram, but it's not like your full-time job. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how like the shifts and changes ahead. I don't know.
I think also with that, with the algorithm, it's so easy to get caught into constantly being like, oh, the algorithm is why my stuff hasn't been seen. Instagram will favor the content that people are engaging with, but also stuff that you are using new features on their thing. So if Instagram brings out a new feature, say even on stories, they may bring out like when they had like the poll come out. If you're constantly using the new features, they're going to favor people who are using more and more features on their Instagram account and keeping people on that account.
Brilliant. The next question is, can anyone recommend a good how-to source? This person has struggled using Instagram for the first time in terms of functionality.
Like just kind of learning the basic ins and outs of Instagram, I guess.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know. Would you know of one, Danny?
I would probably just say, like, for me, YouTube is like my best friend. So anything that you need to know, you can hop onto YouTube. You can also, I haven't personally used it, but I know a lot of people use, like, say, things like Skillshare for really short courses, and you can get like a 2-week free trial if you just want to quickly jump on there and learn about that. But everything is on the internet that you need to know if you just jump onto YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
And it's just getting used to it, really. You just have to play around with it.
Mm-hmm. Next question. Do you think it's better to have a website than an Etsy account?
I would say, okay, so I have both. I find that it's definitely better for me to have a website. Having a website does come with its costs. So you're having to pay for a domain, you're having to pay for the actual site management per month, perhaps email accounts that are linked with it. So if you're in a stage that you feel like you are making enough income to cover those costs, then definitely have a website because you own that is yours. Etsy, I find I have Etsy purely because if someone is already on the Etsy site and is typing in island art, my stuff may come up on that and they can purchase through it. But my main focus would be a website.
Yeah, like I think Etsy used to be really helpful with finding people as well. Like I started on Etsy and I think like if you were posting to Etsy consistently, like way back in the day, you know, you would show up higher in the search features and like rankings and stuff. But I think Etsy is like so saturated now that it's not really going to be like driving loads of business to your page. So I wouldn't say like Etsy really has like that massive benefit to it. I think having your own site, I think basically anything that you can have complete control over is better. Because again, Etsy could change things and you just like any, you know, like it's kind of like having the mailing list and Instagram, like the mailing list is better because you have complete control over that. So having like a website, you have complete control over that.
Perfect. Next question is, if I share someone else's post, example, a quote or photo, do I need to ask their permission before doing so? Or is it okay providing you indicate it's not your own work and where you got it from?
I personally think it's okay. I'd say it kind of depends on the context, right? I think if you're sharing it to highlight someone else, I think it's nice to share other people's work in that way and be really clear that it's, their work. I think that if there's any questions around if they would care or any ambiguity, or you're like distorting it or plan on changing it in some way or using it maybe to promote something, then definitely ask. I'm happy for people to share my work if they're tagging me in it and mentioning me in the comments and stuff, but not if it's for something. Like I had someone once take some of my artwork and slap text over it for like a Mother's Day sale or something, but they tagged me. And I messaged them and said that they needed to remove it because they didn't hire me to do that. They didn't pay for the artwork. They didn't pay for the use. And that is a very much like a commercial way to use my artwork. And I need to be paid for that. So that was inappropriate. But had they just shared my artwork and been like, we love this artwork created by Lauren, for me, that's okay. But if you're ever unsure, just ask.
I agree.
Do you have anything on that, Danni?
Mine would be exactly the same. Like as long as you're crediting the person who has created that content, but it depends whether or not it's used for a personal or a commercial reasons. I've had stuff shared as well, which was for commercial reasons without any credit. And I can tell you, it is a really, really horrible feeling that you get when you see your work, especially if it's done in the way that has happened to Lauren, where it's been modified against your own wish. Yeah. So definitely credit them, but if it's something like that, ask for permission first. And it's always really nice as a creative when you get a message and someone says, I really love your work, do you mind if I share it? Because it's also creating a conversation with that person and letting them know that you appreciate what you've done. So
yeah,
perfect. Next question, do you use a tripod or tripod camera holder to record work in progress videos?
I'm sorry. I use so many different weird things. Like sometimes I've like taped my phone to like the ceiling light and everything like that. If you see behind the scenes of like what you actually have to do to be able to get the right shot.
Yeah.
But you can purchase, I got from Amazon, and it's a nice tripod thing with the light. And I have that in my studio and it is fantastic. But sometimes you just got to do what you've got to do. I've had it in the top of my t-shirt sitting there to record it. So I'm sure you're the same.
Oh yeah, completely. I have actually like my light here. I ordered this one from the States not long ago, and it's really cool. So it has like a light and it has like the phone holder built into like the top of it. And you can also change this to do like selfie mode, and it has like different light settings.
Oh, that's really good.
So you can like switch it to like warm and cool and daylight and stuff. And it's like attached to my desk. So it's kind of what I've been using recently, which is really helpful. But before that, I did have like one I got on Amazon that was like stretchier and yeah, you just kind of make it work. Anytime doing like photo shoots and stuff, you just kind of, it's like a huge mess and then it's like clean and cute, just like where you're working usually is how it goes.
100%.
Perfect. Next question. Do you recommend any good digital creator Instagram advisors on Instagram?
No.
So what's that like people who
like talk about, like share advice and stuff, right?
I think so, yeah.
I don't tend to follow that type of thing. I would follow more people who are actually creating stuff and taking inspiration from what they're doing or motivation from what they're doing. But as Lauren said, sometimes the best artists that you enjoy seeing their work, I personally sometimes don't follow because I feel a bit overwhelmed by the amount of work that they've done and I compare it a lot. So I guess it's just trying to find people who inspire you to the right degree, but don't necessarily make you feel like you haven't done enough work.
I think it's a very, very good point. And I think you both touched on that in your presentations of just like the comparison. And sometimes you think by following the people that you're inspired will give you inspiration, but it also acts actually in a negative way.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, can you recommend a basic how-to guide to how-to guide to cover the technical step-by-step process to do the fantastic things you've talked about on Instagram? I keep struggling with sharing posts.
A step by step, I'm trying to think. There's so many things on like online that you can Google for that type of thing. Of course, we have that all in the presentation of how to do it, but it's, if you're, there's so many different things. I guess it's just picking on what you want to start learning, like whether or not it's posts, reels, IGTV, and maybe just focusing on one section at a time and having a little search, connecting with other people. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me as well, and being able to start there.
I think too, like just thinking of one maybe small way that you can elevate, say like your post, for example, like maybe add fresh flowers, or, you know, maybe position, if say it's like artwork, you know, position your art near a window so it's like better lighting, and take maybe a little bit extra time to edit it in Photoshop or Visco or whatever you're using. Just try and think of maybe like small ways that you can elevate. You don't have to like, you know, all of a sudden have this like incredible, amazing Instagram account. Like I'm sure like if you go back through either of our Instagrams, there's like loads of posts that are like, now we would be like, oh, yikes. Like, but at the time it was what I was capable of. It was like where I was at. So I think you have to start where you're at and just think of like little things that you can do to improve. You know, it doesn't have to be explosive.
I'd also add to that, like, that you can get from either Etsy, or there's one called Creative Market, where you can actually download PSDs for, say, artwork, and you wanted to be able to put your artwork in that PSD so that it looks quite fresh, because let me tell you, trying to take a picture of an artwork that's framed with glass on it is very, very hard to do, especially if you're doing it yourself. So you can have ways of being able to do that digitally and being able to create really nice, crisp, clean mock-ups of your art. The other thing you can do quite cheap is actually contacting content creators, if that's what you wanted to do, and send them a whole lot of different product and getting them to take a whole lot of different photos. It might cost you a small fee, but that's time that you could have put to something else, if that makes sense, and you'll have these beautiful professional photos that you can spot throughout your Instagram.
Perfect. Next question, could Lauren share the site she got her phone folder from?
Yeah, I actually just looked, I saw that question, so I looked it up because I realized I hadn't said. So the website is called shopcanvas.co. I think if you Google it, it like if you just Google like Canvas Light or something, it's kind of a weird name, because Canvas, obviously, like canvases, it's quite generic. So if you just go directly to their website, it's shopcanvas.co. The duty and stuff is kind of expensive because it's coming from America. They have a version that has like a big heavy base, or they have one that just like clamps to your desk, and obviously like the base is like 5-pound weight. So I didn't get the base because that adds a lot to the cost, but I really like it. I know a lot of other artists who use it as well, and they're nice.
Perfect. Can you talk about hashtags and if they help your posts get seen? It often seems to lead to spam DMs when I try.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Sorry. I get the same thing with certain hashtags that you use, but I definitely see that there is a value to them to a certain degree. At the very start, when Instagram first launched, it definitely did help in that sort of way of being able to elevate your posts a lot higher. obviously as Instagram becomes more saturated, it is harder to be able to stand out on that level. But I do personally use them, but I don't oversaturate it. Maybe just a couple of different hashtags that are relevant to what I'm doing. But I also have a hashtag for my own art. So I'll just have Danni Simpson art, and it's a good way for people, perhaps if they've posted my art on their wall, they can hashtag that and people can see all of the tags that relate to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think like having like a handful, you know, like maybe 10 or even less hashtags that you do with the post and what's relevant, and maybe trying to think of ones that like aren't so generic. So like, you know, like art would be like a huge, you know, but maybe like narrow it down to watercolors, which would actually still be huge. Sorry, watercolor, like watercolor painting or botanical painting, you know, something like that. I have had people say that they've found me through hashtags. You can also actually, if you go into your insights, see if people tags. It doesn't show you which hashtag, unfortunately, but you can kind of see which posts people have found you from hashtags. So it can kind of give you maybe an idea of like, oh, I posted these hashtags on this post and people found me. These posts, people didn't find me. So it can kind of gauge like what works as well.
And adding to that, I would say for me, I find the most successful hashtags that people have said that they've found me through. Say, for example, if I'm posting if I'm doing a mural in Belfast and I hashtag Belfast, that seems to be a locational thing, seems to be quite effective, or Belfast street artist, because if people are looking for something, it's quite an obvious hashtag to look up and you'll pop up. But also one thing I forgot to mention is add your location at the top. I've found this really, really helpful for people who are looking through locational posts to be able to find certain things. So you can do that when you make the post, you can add the location of wherever you are. And I found that that's helped quite a lot.
Perfect. So this will be the last question. Danni, you've talked about Instagram timing out with permanent posts after posting. Therefore, timing when you post on a day is important. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so the thing about Instagram is obviously initially when Instagram first started, it was in like chronological order. So whenever you posted something, if you posted an hour ago, it would be on that person's feed in that order of whoever their followers have, whoever they follow. Now the algorithm has changed and it's putting posts that you're most likely wanting to engage with at the top. But in saying that, once you've seen that post, it's not going to show that post again. Whereas, say, for example, TikTok is quite odd, where I've posted a video months ago and then all of a sudden it just went viral out of nowhere. And I have no idea. I still can't wrap my head around how that works. Whereas Instagram is less likely for that to happen. So after I find after about 24 hours, I find that the likes get less and less and less, which means that people are seeing it less. I wouldn't so much focus on the time in the day as a huge thing, but I would definitely try and find a window of time that you want to post it within. So I wouldn't be posting at 1 a.m. in the morning, because 4 hours after you've posted that is when people may start waking up. So you want to have that window of time where people are most likely going to be on their phone.
Perfect. So that is all of our questions, and I think we'll just wrap up this session. So thank you so much, Danni and Lauren. Like, that has been so informative, and I think it was done really well of just hearing both your perspectives on how you build your business and important things. And there's a lot of overlap, which is really nice as well. And I think it's always really good to hear women building their business and just also like the how-tos, which I think everyone here really enjoys, and it's good to interact with each other. So just thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great Saturday, and take care.